if you look at the federal budget last year, so the 2025 year, we had a military budget of $857 billion.
Yeah.
And Hegseth wants to take it to $1 trillion. He says it needs to be $1 trillion. The HHS budget is $1.8 trillion. And that's because we're all poisoning each other. American people are poisoned. They're chronically ill. And if you look at our healthcare system, it's almost double the cost of Switzerland's healthcare system. So we spend more per capita than just any country in the world by a lot. And so it's very expensive. And so Mark Skidmore, who is the professor at Michigan State University, who's helped me a lot to document all the money missing from the federal government, he just finished a calculation. We just did a show with him on the Solari Report. If we cut disability, so the number of people in America who are disabled, back down to 2010 levels, you would drop that HHS budget by $500 billion.
Wow.
Right. So that's what it costs to poison your population. And that's why this battle around the HHS budget and policies is so fractious, including the fact that the government is legally liable, if the truth comes out, for poisoning Americans. Which means if you look at what Toby Rogers says, Toby Rogers is the guy who's really tried to cost out the price of autism. Mm-hmm. So I got onto all of the HHS issues because I was an investment advisor. And what I discovered was that healthcare fraud was the number one cause of family bankruptcy or loss of family wealth. And number two, in my experience, was financial fraud. So people were just losing their wealth because they were being lied to. They were being lied to by the healthcare system.
By hospitals?
Everybody.
Really? Like legitimate healthcare organizations? Okay.
Yes. And many of those legitimate organizations really didn't know. I mean, my father was a very successful surgeon. You know, I sort of grew up. Unfortunately, we'd say, "Daddy, what did you do today?" And then he'd really tell us.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. No, the dinner table at our house was very. We used to read his surgical books for fun.
What kind of surgeon?
He had, during the World War II, they had taken the University of Pennsylvania Hospital and literally picked up most of the people and the organizational structure and moved it under Stilwell to Burma. So he grew up in, or he did his internship and residency in China, Burma, doing trauma. He was a MASH unit, right? And when he came back, you know, because a lot of the big improvements they make in surgery happens in wartime because they have so much so much opportunity. And when he came back, he worked and redesigned how the emergency room should work all over the country.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and well, it was really funny because both sides of my family, all the competition, there were very competitive people on both sides, but it was like, okay, who did the most to save civilization today? Okay, your grandfather did this and your father did that, and so, for example, his father had gotten the laws changed so they could bring penicillin to Tennessee and had introduced penicillin to Tennessee. And that had been a huge lifesaver for many people. Oh. So at the dinner table, it's like your grandfather brought penicillin to Tennessee. What have you done today?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this idea that you talk about of the control grid.
Right.
Can you explain what the control grid is?
Sure. So let's say the way George Kennan at the end of World War II said, we got 6% of the people and 50% of the resources. Mm-hmm. And to keep that going, we're going to have to be really tough. We're going to have to drop a lot of bombs. So Goldwater came along and he said, we're going to have to drop a lot of bombs and be really tough. And people said, no, we're good Christians. We don't want to. That's not us. Mm-hmm. So Jimmy Carter came along and he shivered in front of the fireplace and said, we're going to have to cut back. And the American people said, no, we don't want to do that. So then the Bushes, I always say the Bushes came along and said, you're all good Christians. Here's your check. Don't ask questions. Okay. So what we've been doing is we've been subsidizing the American people with the blessings of sort of racketeering around the world in the third world and running the warfare. So when you go from a unipolar to a multipolar model, you lose the ability to extract the resources you need to keep that going. So, for example, if I want to trade my Danny dollar for, labor and resources all around the world, and the BRICS nations don't want to take the Danny dollar, then I'm losing the ability to subsidize the American way of life. Okay, so I have to cut back. Mm-hmm. So one way to cut back, so you can say, oh, well, there's a climate change emergency. We want everybody to cut back. You can try that. Or you can, throw on tariffs, and that's going to cause even more inflation. Everybody's going to cut back. But at some point, if you're really going to cut people back, it's very helpful if you have complete control. So if you're the bankers and you want to control fiscal policy and collapse the current constitution system, if you can exercise complete control with digital technology and an all-digital financial system, you have complete control. So go back to the pandemic. If we say, okay, we want you and your family to lock down, then suddenly your money won't work outside your house. You can order a pizza to be delivered, but you can't leave the house. If you have an electric car, ultimately you can turn off the electric car. And if they say, well, we want you to take the shot, and it's mandated, if you don't take it, we'll turn off your money.
Right.
So you're talking about complete control.
And this would be utilized by spending the government money and giving people money. And central and in addition to having a centralized, controlled digital.
This would be used by using the private and the public sector financial train tracks to exercise complete central control. So I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a wonderful video that I keep showing of Augustine Carstens, the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, in 2020. I was brought up, basically, I was trained to be a central banker.
Okay.
And I had never seen a central banker tell the truth in open public in my life until I saw, when this happened, I almost fell off my chair. I was online with John Titus, who does the money market show with me.
Yeah.
And we were chatting as we were watching this IMF panel, and I freaked. I just said, did you see that? He said, don't worry, I got the clip. I said, that's, because in my world, it's impossible. Anyway, but here's what he said, and it's a 59-second video. You can run it if you want. If you go to our website, we have a section called Video Shorts, and in the Financial Transaction Freedom, we have about 100 short videos, and this is the first. He basically said, with digital technology, and he was explaining central bank digital currency, CBDC, but you can do it privately with stable coins. It doesn't have to be a CBDC. It can be a stable coin. And he said, we can make the rules of what you can do with your money,
right,
and we can enforce the rules of what you can do with your money.
Right.
So if they say, Danny, your health isn't what it should, you can't eat pizza. Your money won't work to buy pizza.
Right. Or you can't travel outside the limits of your area code or your zip code. Your credit cards turn off if you go out there, so you can't buy gas, you can't buy food. Right.
But the reality is, with AI and software, I can make a entirely granular control system just for you, one person at a time. Right. And so I can do it for
not a broad brush. It's very specific.
It's 8 billion, and I can collect all the data and apply my social credit system just to you. If you're good, you'll get, maybe you can travel a little bit more. If you're bad, you get locked down.